I have a degree in art, and I have a degree in painting and drawing, but I had another career, and so it was just about 6 years ago that I picked up the paintbrush again. So this is all relatively new to me, and probably 50 years ago when I was painting, I had a particular style, but now I really don't. I'm just still kind of experimenting with form and motion and color and mood, and especially movement. On a two-dimensional canvas, movement really fascinates me, and how can I kind of create a sense of movement. So it's really still fun for me, but it still feels pretty experimental for me as well, because I'm still trying out new techniques and new strategies and new ways of putting something on the two-dimensional canvas.
When you were first painting, what were you doing then?
When I first painted, I painted only in oil because that was what you did. If you were a serious artist, you painted in oil. Nobody would have ever thought about painting in acrylics. I'm not even sure acrylics were that common back then. So I painted in oil, and I painted very different looking paintings. There's no piece in here that I painted back then, but it was all layer upon layer upon layer of color, and trying to achieve a real depth. It was still non-objective. It was very abstract and non-objective, but it was still and kind of muted and very, I guess I would call it very stylized. That's what I loved doing back then. I loved the layers of the paint, and I loved going back in and working into the paint again. That was really just cool for me. So I loved doing that.
Why did you get away from that?
I had a career in education. I was married at the still married, and had to kind of figure out what I was going to do with my world and how I was going to earn some money and make a living. And so I went into education, and I taught art for 1 year, but then decided that I'd rather be a classroom teacher, and so I did that. And then I was a principal, and I was in central office and assistant superintendent and the whole ball of wax. And then about 17 years ago, I decided I didn't want to do that work anymore, and so I formed my own consulting company. So I worked with school districts that were in trouble, or school districts that really wanted a different direction, and I worked with the leadership in those districts. It was wonderful. It was a great career, very fulfilling. Loved it.
Are you retired or semi-retired now?
I am retired as of about a year and a half ago. I'm fully retired. I don't think anybody will contact me for any more work. I kind of hope not, because I really don't want to have that urge to get back into it. But yeah, it was just time. It was time for me to do that. And one of the main reasons was I wanted to be over here more. I wanted to paint more. I wanted to kind of explore, wanted to become more part of the art world. So it was just, you get to the point where you just kind of know, okay, this is it. This is time for me to change and go in a new direction.
Had you completely left off from painting for a while, or was it,
Completely.
So what?
Yeah.
Tell me about that first painting you made when you got back into it.
I painted a small painting for my daughter when she turned 21, and it was the first time I had picked up a paintbrush in probably over 30 years. And I made a small painting for her, and then put it down again because I still had a career. I was still working full time. So I always knew I would go back to it. I just didn't exactly know when, but then, everything kind of aligned a year and a half ago, and I realized it was time for me to go. I've been painting pretty seriously for about the last 4 years, just almost a year here in this studio. But for maybe 4.5 years, I've been painting pretty seriously. I picked it back up during COVID, which was a really wild time to try to do that. So finding a studio space, feeling safe, and all that kind of stuff was something that I was concerned about, but it worked out great. And I decided this time that I didn't want to paint in oil, that I wanted to paint with something that was quicker and faster. It would allow me to kind of work back into it a lot quicker, and so I paint now 100% of the time with acrylics when I do a painting.
It's your artwork to me seems like it's very involved in the brush strokes.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a good perception on your part. I really like quick brush strokes. I like putting things down really quickly and seeing what they do and what they say to me. Sometimes I'll slow it down. The painting I'm doing right now, I'm slowing it way down because I just want to practice doing that. But I think some of my most successful pieces are pieces that came together really quickly and got to the point where I decided they're finished. I've got the brush stroke, I have the motion, I have what I'm trying to convey, and so I'm done with it.
Now, when you're starting a piece, do you have a plan, or you sort of like discover it along the way?
I have sort of a plan. I usually have a picture that's inspired me, or I saw something out in the environment that I thought was intriguing, or I found something even in an interior of a building that I thought was fascinating in terms of its design, and so I'll start with that. And then usually, Paul, the finished piece looks nothing like what I started with, because I like the idea of having an idea about the painting, but then I want the paint and the canvas to kind of tell me where to go with it. But I was very influenced by Mark Rothko's paintings and some of the abstract expressionistic painters of the 60s and early 70s, but I don't consciously think about that while I am painting. I'm also a huge fan of John Singer Sargent because of his brilliant brush work. I could never replicate that, but I kind of, every painting he has, I just devour, because it's just, to me, it's just so beautiful. But those are big influences, but I don't think about it when I'm actually painting. I used to when I was first starting out, when I was in my 20s, I did lots of drawings, and the drawings were of dancers. I was really intrigued with the human form and bodies in movement and in motion. So I did a lot of that work, and I actually think I'm going to return to that and do more drawings in the next year or so, because it's something that I miss, and it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I think it would actually enhance my painting. I went to school at Texas Tech University. I'm a Texas boy, and I went Texas Tech University, which is not a place you think of when you think of a good art school, but had a really wonderful art and architecture department, and it was fantastic. I loved it. In West Texas, where it's not the most beautiful part of the country, but it was a great place to go to school. I joined that society because I felt like I needed a connection to local artists. It has over 100 members, and it is really an impressive group of artists that have a lot more skill and talent than I do. And there are quite a few painters who paint abstractly or non-objectively, and that attracted me, and it was just a very inviting and welcoming group of people. So I soon was put on the board, and I continue to serve on the board. This piece is a piece in progress. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing with this piece. I love architecture, and I love architectural design. So I began kind of replicating the inside of some kind of room, and with these big expanses of windows, I was really interested in kind of creating an outside-in feeling with the painting. And then, to be honest with you, I was doing that, and then last week I was working on it, and I began putting tissue paper back onto it, real leaves, and I'm not exactly sure where it's going to take me. So I just put another layer of tissue paper on there, and I'm going to wait and let that dry and see what happens. This piece I'm really proud of. This piece came together a little bit less than a year ago. It's called Dangerous Intersection. It started out being just a design, but as I began working on it, I wanted it to feel more like movement, and I wanted to create a sense of depth. So this, to me, feels like a pathway or a road that's getting narrower as it gets into the distance. And then I wanted to just create some tension in this area. And so I really like the way it turned out, and the tension is kind of softened by these muted orbs that are kind of floating. So I like that painting. I also went back into that painting and scraped back into it with scissors and pencil, and I'm really proud of that piece. Yeah, this piece is really different from anything that I've done. I did it also about a year ago, so you can see that I really don't have a style. This piece was inspired by, and it'd be hard for you to believe, but my wife and I were walking on a beach in Southern California, and there was just kind of a mass of seaweed that was all tangled up, and it was on the beach, and I took a picture of it. And when I got back to the studio, I just began creating my version of what I saw on the beach. And so it started with just paint, but then I took some muslin material and created some depth and some three-dimensionality to it, and then painted back into the muslin. And then as I finished the painting, I decided that it needed something to bind it together. And so I began just putting this string and this twine all around it and really wrapped the painting in that. It's called entanglement. And it is so different from what I've done that I'm proud of it. But I like the way it turned out. I think there's a tendency for people to want to look at abstract or non-objective art and they want to see something in it. And sometimes I will paint it so people can see something in it, but sometimes I don't want people to see anything in it. I want people to create their own meaning from the canvas rather than me tell them what it is. That's one of the reasons why I like more abstract pieces, is I'm not telling the viewer what it is. I'm letting the viewer determine what it is.